Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we are talking about a significant severe weather and tornado outbreak that is going to start this evening across the Mississippi Valley and continue with this new high risk of severe weather for tomorrow across Dixie Alley. This is going to be a multi-day significant event, and we're going to be talking about the areas that could see the most significant severe weather impacts, the kind of threats that you could have, and then we're also going to be jumping over to the models to do a forecast on this severe weather event. But again, day two, very rare high risk in place across parts of Mississippi and Alabama for tomorrow. We have a broad, moderate risk of severe weather today. You guys can see this huge red area here across the Mississippi River Valley from Des Moines, Iowa, southward through St. Louis. St. Louis is going to be right in the bullseye of this highest risk area, southward into Memphis and northern Mississippi here. Severe weather possible as far north as Duluth, Minnesota, and as far south as the Gulf of America. We have a very, very broad stretching severe weather event for today and tonight. The biggest threat is going to be widespread damaging winds here. 45% damaging wind probabilities here across most of this moderate risk region, including the St. Louis area. Wind probably going to be the greatest threat, the St. Louis metro area and northward once you get up into west central Illinois, into parts of southern Iowa. Some of these damaging wind gusts along the squall line this evening could get up to 100 miles per hour, causing widespread wind damage. South of the St. Louis area, I think, is where we're going to have our greatest tornado threat. As you guys can see here, St. Louis metro and southward, we have a 15% tornado probability here. Very high tornado probabilities across this red shaded region here. For this evening into the overnight, we are going to have enough moisture getting pulled up from the Gulf of America in combination with some very strong winds turning with height. There is going to be very favorable ingredients for nocturnal tornadoes with strong long track supercells that could also produce hail up to baseball size going to be possible in this region here. So again, damaging winds, significant strong tornadoes, and hail are all going to be on the table within this moderate risk for this evening into the overnight. We're going to talk more about this in a forecast sense in just a second here. And then tomorrow, we have a high risk of severe weather. Day two high risk is extremely rare. It's been a long time since we've seen something like that. Within this, very high tornado probabilities, 30% tornado probabilities there across the high-risk region in parts of Mississippi into Alabama here. Numerous strong to potentially violent and long-track tornadoes are going to be possible, with chances of significant tornadoes possible all the way up into the Tennessee-Kentucky border, and low tornado probabilities, maybe a spin-up tornado possible, all the way up into southern lower Michigan. Again, very good moisture getting pulled in from the Gulf of America here. It's going to be most maximized across, the Gulf states here in conjunction with that strong wind shear, going to lead to some very high chances for tornadoes. We're also going to be looking at some pretty large hail with these supercells, and damaging winds definitely going to be a concern as well. Again, a chance of damaging winds all the way up into the Great Lakes and into parts of the Northeast states. But tornadoes are a very significant concern for tomorrow. And again, there is a chance for violent tornadoes, which could be EF4 or higher later during the afternoon and maybe into the evening tomorrow. So let's hop over to the models here to get a forecast for this event. I think a good starting point would be taking a look at the HRRR model. Now, I want to show you guys how these storms are going to progress throughout the evening here. Again, this is for today. We're starting with today's moderate risk first and then taking a look at the high risk. So you guys will notice we're going to have some storms developing here across parts of western Missouri, this little arc of storms here developing right around 4 p.m. this afternoon here. We're coming up on that time pretty quickly here. It may even be that time when this video goes out. But we're going to have these storms developing. They become a lot more widespread, though. These storms are going to approach the St. Louis area as we get into around 8 or 9 p.m. this evening. And I want to show you guys what the environment looks like at that point. So this is, again, right around 9 p.m. this evening here, storms approaching the St. Louis area. We have a very organized line of storms here moving into west central Illinois. These could produce widespread damaging winds, again, possibly 80 to 100 miles per hour. And then you'll notice the St. Louis metro area and southward, we're going to have a more broken up type storm system. And these more broken up storms are very, very likely to be long track intense supercells. That includes southeastern Missouri, parts of Arkansas, the Missouri Boot Heel, into western Tennessee, including the Memphis area, and could get down into Mississippi as well. these broken up storms in a very favorable environment for strong tornadoes. So let's see what that is looking like. First of all, here is our dew points. As you guys can see, not a super moist environment here across the St. Louis area and northward. Dew points only in the 50s, but because the wind shear is so strong up there, it's not going to take much moisture to get significant severe weather, and that's why that area is still going to be seeing a big time deal of it as the evening goes along. But notice south, as you get to southeastern Missouri, eastern Arkansas, you got these 60s dew points getting pulled in from the Gulf of America. You can see that dry line there across western Arkansas into central Missouri, that warm, moist air clashing with that cool, dry air. That is going to be very favorable for severe weather. These surface winds also coming out near due south to maybe slightly southeasterly. Definitely a situation that we have to keep an eye on. And again, we have to take a look at our wind fields as well, because that's going to play a huge role in severe weather over the next couple of days. Here's your 500 millibar winds here, your mid-level wind field. These are coming out of the southwest, the west to southwest here. So again, these winds are starting kind of southeasterly, and they're becoming more from the west the higher up that you get into the atmosphere. That means those winds are turning with height. That's wind shear. And they're very strong as well. So this is going to help organize our storms and make them very severe, even up into, the northern Missouri and west central Illinois area, even though we don't have a ton of moisture up by that region. And it's still going to be very strong down here across, into Arkansas and the Tennessee, Mississippi, in conjunction with a very strong lower level jet stream. Look at that, 70 knot low level jet over St. Louis around 9 p.m. this evening. Very strong as you get into the Memphis area as well, near 60 knot low level jet. Very favorable environment for tornadoes in this region. Again, this is the possibility of nocturnal tornadoes tonight. Here is our significant tornado parameter. This is kind of a bunch of ingredients that are favorable for strong tornadoes thrown into a blender, and we have these values just off the charts here by 9 p.m. across parts of Arkansas into Missouri and southward into Louisiana here. Primed environment for tornadic supercells. And let's just go ahead and zoom back out to our radar and pull some soundings from these areas. I'm going to pull one. Let's go right along the Arkansas and Missouri border here by 9 p.m. And as you guys can see, PDS tornado sounding, extremely curved photograph here. Again, these surface winds are coming out of the southeast, very strong low-level jet, turning south a little bit southwesterly and then veering westerly with height. You can also see it over here on the thermodynamic chart. Start southeasterly, these winds turn westerly with height. They're very strong. This curved photograph is exactly what would happen for significant tornadoes. And our thermodynamics over here, temperatures upper 60s, dew points in the lower 60s. You got a little separation there of that white line and that red temperature line, which means that there's some CAPE in play as well. Get a help to destabilize the environment even more. A little bit of an elevated mix layer right around the 3 kilometer above the ground level. This is definitely an intense PDS tornado sounding ahead of these supercells near the Missouri and Arkansas border. And these supercells will keep marching eastward across the Mississippi Valley as we go throughout the early overnight hours, and really through the entirety of the overnight hours. We're going to have a threat of pretty significant severe weather down there. And I'll show you guys the radar loop so we can kind of see how these storms progress. So again, they move across to St. Louis area, and then those clusters of supercells a little bit further to the south that lead into tomorrow morning's convection across Dixie Alley. And that's what I want to talk about next. So again, we have a high risk of severe weather in place tomorrow across Dixie Alley, and day 2 high risks are just incredibly off the charts rare. So let's see why that is happening. Again, this is all off the HRRR model. We do want to compare some models and see what's going on. We're going to start with the HRRR here. And the first thing that I want to do is show you guys the progression of these storms. So again, as we get into tomorrow morning, we're going to have widespread thunderstorms here. Some of them could be severe across parts of Mississippi, Alabama, into the Appalachian Mountains, northern Georgia here. But then you'll notice as we go hours along, these are kind of get a weaken and move off to the north. And then we see these new storms developing as we get to the late morning, early afternoon hours tomorrow. And then look at what is going on as we get into about 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Let's speed up there to 31Z. And as you guys can see, just incredibly potent area of storms here. Southern Mississippi supercells are all over the place at this point. These all have the potential to be tornadic, producing strong tornadoes. Again, long track, violent tornadoes going to be possible tomorrow across this region, and there are certainly some factors in play for why that is the case. That's what we're going to look at in just a second. But again, this is the HRRR model that was updated this morning. It's got tornadic supercells everywhere in southern Mississippi by the early afternoon tomorrow. Let's take a look at that environment in place. Here is our mid-level wind field. Again, very strong mid-level winds here coming out of the southwest. Again, these are veering westerly with height, so they're going to be a little bit more south to southeasterly. South to southwesterly. Low-level jet here, pretty strong at this point as we get into about 2 p.m. So again, favorable kinematics in place to get tornadoes. The difference between tonight and tomorrow is that tomorrow is going to be even more favorable for tornadoes. And a big reason for that is we have the kinematics in place like we have tonight, but we also have a lot more moisture and a lot more instability the closer that you do get to the Gulf of America. So here is a look at our dew points. You can see again, tonight they were kind of in the 50s, touching 60s in some spots. Tomorrow they're going to be upper 60s into the 70s and still coming out of the south. Look at these 70s dew points getting pulled in from the Gulf of America here. This is going to be a very moisture-rich environment to get severe weather. Let's take a look at our convective available potential energy, our CAPE values here. Surface-based CAPE is going to be right around 2,000 across most of these areas. Well, look at that, even up to 4,000 here across parts of central Mississippi. So it is just a primed environment for kinematics and thermodynamics tomorrow. It's going to be, there's going to be some areas that get severe weather tonight that are going to be mostly prompted by kinematics, that wind shear. But tomorrow, it is all going to come together. We're going to have a very moist, unstable environment in the warm sector out ahead of that cold front, and we're going to have very strong wind shear in place. This is going to make the environment extremely favorable for tornadoes, and that is why we have such high confidence in a tornado outbreak, which is why they issued that high risk of severe weather in advance. Look at these STP values here. I mean, we have... Look at that, near 7 STP. We're going to get a lot higher than that, though, when you get into these brown shades here. Well, I guess we're going to be right around 7 in those brown shades. So we're going to have very, very favorable environment for strong to violent tornadoes. These are going to hold up as we go throughout the late afternoon and head into the evening. Let's take a look at the progression of these supercell storms. We're going to go over to forecast loop. Let's speed that up right into... Well, actually here, let's take it along. I want to show you guys the progression of these storms. So we get into... I'm going to jump over here. Composite reflectivity. Let's take a look at the radar. So again, we start with these storms tomorrow morning. Not too strong, maybe some severe weather, but then you see these new intense widespread storms developing by the early afternoon tomorrow. Here's 5 p.m. We have supercells marching from Mississippi into Alabama. Definitely a high chance that several of these are going to be tornadic. And then we get into the after dark period when we're going to have these storms moving from Alabama into Georgia. Still could be pretty significant at this point. And then they are going to move off into the Carolinas as we get later into the overnight and head into Sunday morning. Again, severe weather could continue across the eastern United States on Sunday, but is going to be a lot less significant. But definitely a high chance for a major tornado outbreak tomorrow, with some tornadoes possibly EF3 or higher and on the ground for a long time, in conjunction with today's moderate risk as well. So again, just a little quick review on the two outlooks. Here is the moderate risk for today, which does include a relatively high tornado threat in addition to widespread damaging winds. And then tomorrow, that day 2 high risk of severe weather with a very high tornado threat across Dixie Alley, with at least an isolated tornado threat all the way up into the Ohio Valley and lower Great Lakes. Guys, I think it is going to cap it for that one. Make sure you stay safe out there. It's going to be a real significant couple of days here. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.